Hello and welcome to Bookmakers TV, the Premier League preview show. I'm Gav from the LFC Day Trippers. That is Liam Canning on my left, and on my right is Jamie. I am Daily Hotspot across all your social media. This week we're going to look at the transfer window, which has just closed a couple of days ago. We're going to see how your club's done in that, who impressed you, and who you're worried about following the end of the transfer window. And we're going to have a look, of course, quickly at the Premier League this weekend. There's some big games, and it might be, we say it every week, but it might be a weekend that has a massive bearing on the season. But this one, to me, really feels like it is. Liam, how are you, first of all? And you're very welcome again. I'm going to start with the transfer window, though.
Yep.
You're a United fan.
Yep.
They bring in Weghorst. They bring in Sabitzer after Eriksen goes down injured and looks like he could be out for a little while. Happy enough for United's window? Who's impressed you the most across the Premier League, and who you worried for when that window slammed shut at 11 o'clock the other night?
Well, I think in terms of what I was expecting going into January isn't too far off what United did. I think the only surprise is that they brought in a midfielder on loan in Marcel Sabitzer, and that's primarily because Eriksen got injured. If Eriksen had stayed fit and didn't have that injury from Andy Carroll, then I think United wouldn't have dipped into the market further than Wout Weghorst. So, in terms of bringing that centre forward in, I said last week that I actually think he's done okay. I think he's done well, actually. I think Ten Hag has got him playing in a way that it suits our system and suits the way that we want to play. He's very much ball to feet, but can pop it off very quickly and interchanges very, very nicely. So he's absolutely fine for what we need him for. And then Sabitzer, we needed a number 8 to replace Eriksen, and I think on paper you can't get closer in terms of the type of profile that he is compared to Eriksen. So I think long term we'll be looking in the summer for a proper or two probably proper midfielders to come in and challenge. But for now, on loan, I think Sabitzer does the job, and obviously wasn't getting enough minutes by Munich, so he's hungry to prove himself. And Ten Hag knows him, followed him, tracked him. I think it's for what we could have done. I think it's an okay window.
And then you look at around the rest of the league.
Yeah,
When it comes to United, probably United's dealings in the transfer windows previously has hurt them in some sort of financial sense, and they're still under Ten Hag. They're going to move players out
yeah.
and probably look to do a bit more in the summer. And they've spent a lot of money. Don't get us wrong, but he's having to, rather than just keep splashing money, he's having to plot a little bit more than probably previous managers. But around the league, who have you looked at and went, wow, that's really good business? And who have you looked at and went, what are you doing?
Well, I think the answer is probably the same in terms of Chelsea. You look at them and you think you've picked up some incredibly good players.
Mm-hmm.
There's no doubt about that. But then you look on the other side of the deal with the money that they've put into it, you think, wow, okay, what's going on here? They've spent 600 million since the summer. That's an extortionate amount of money. I
Mm-hmm.
think I read a stat that suggested that they've spent more in the last 6 months than Fulham have spent since 2001, ahead of tomorrow night's fixture.
Yeah, they've
So,
spent more than the rest outside the Premier League. I think they spent more in Europe by a massive
yeah,
amount. Like,
absolutely colossal amount of money that they put forward here. I don't know what the strategy is. Maybe it is just to recruit as many players as they can that they think are the next level in terms of, or the next generation that will come up. But some of them are fantastic players. Enzo Fernandez had a fantastic World Cup. João Felix, where everyone knows all about him, he's a fantastic player. Badia Chile at centre half for Monaco, who's been talked about for many, many years, and how well he's done there. So they've picked up some really great players, but then they've spent 400 million in January
mm,
or something ridiculous. So I think Chelsea probably the answer to both. I tell you what surprised me most, perhaps, was the quick departure of João Cancelo. I wasn't expecting that. I don't think many people were. He's obviously fallen out of favour with Pep and the club, and he's gone to Bayern Munich, and I think he had 13 touches and got his first assist. So, he's got something to prove over there. But that's an interesting one, and depending on what's going to happen over the next few months, I suppose comes into the summer and what he wants to do there, whether he's staying at City or moving on.
I think when you look at Chelsea, it is an extortionate amount of money, but what they're doing is it's a lot of money to commit, but they're making sure they're committing it over 6, 7, or 8 years. So if you actually break it down, they out of that 600 million, I know they've had to commit a lot on Enzo Fernandez, but outside of that, they've probably committed right now about 150 to 200 million. Okay, which they can do, and then the rest will be spread across their payments. And this is why you're hearing things like UEFA want to cut this back to 5 years. So
Yeah.
you can't spread those payments across. But Chelsea probably next year will show 200 million spent in 2022 of January in their accounts. But that's the way they're doing it. The Cancelo thing, I think, has been rumbling on for a little bit. There's been a bit there where he hasn't been happy for a while, and I think it might have been the game against Arsenal actually in the FA Cup that sealed the deal when they're expected to make some changes. They do, and he's not one of them, and it all just goes. And I've seen varying things like Pep is fair play to Pep. He's ruthless, and if he wants out, he wants out. And then others saying, well, look, is it just a case of City just get rid of him and put another 50 or 60 million down on another defender somewhere? So there's varying kind of feelings on that. Jamie, Spurs. Porro seemed to be linked from Christmas, and it took them till the last day to do it. I'm always amazed at these things that take till the very last day to do when it should be done much quicker. But overall, Danjuma gets a goal on his debut. Matt Doherty has his contract ripped up, which was mad. But overall, for you, Spurs, the window.
Yeah, I think pretty much mixed, really. Look, we addressed pretty much our biggest area in the squad in terms of a right wing back. Obviously, we were, had a lot of right wing backs anyway with Jed Spence, Matt Doherty, and Emerson Royale, but it was a real area of weakness. And, everyone knows that in Conte's systems, wing backs are such an important part of his team. And, that was an area we desperately needed to strengthen in. We needed creativity in that position. And Pedro Porro, for me, is pretty much was number one target. I think going into this window, I liked him a lot. We saw him play against us twice in the Champions League. He impressed on both occasions. His numbers are really impressive for a wing back. I think this season he's got 1 goal and 9 assists in all competitions for Sporting. So he's done really well in that respect. Again, comes in as a 23-year-old Spanish international. So for me, I'm delighted with this signing. I think almost a 10 out of 10 signing. I think it was pretty much the perfect player we could have hoped for. I think as well, Danjuma is a nice little addition. It's a good deal as well. Obviously, a guy who comes in cheap. And we needed someone who can come off the bench. We needed another attacking option. Throughout the most of the season, we just had Brian Hill as really kind of our only alternative to Kulusevski, Kane and Son. So we needed that alternative. We've got in Danjuma, so that was good. I think the biggest concern for Spurs fans is that we haven't brought an essential defender. For Spurs, defensively, we've been shocking. And for a Conte team, you usually see them as one or two as the best defensive records in the league. And, since October, no Premier League teams conceded more goals than Spurs. So, that's a real damning stat as to how poor we have been defensively. So a centre-back was certainly needed, and we would have loved to have seen that. But I think we kind of do understand in a way that you can't fix all your problems in one window. I think we are. This might be a surprise to some people, but I think as in terms of where we're building towards as a team, I can kind of see that we've got those foundations in place, and there are 1 or 2 positions in this squad that need filling. I think a goalkeeper needs to come in, 2 central defenders, and then maybe a midfielder. And then I think the team's starting to take shape as well. So overall, I'm pretty happy with the direction that Spurs are going in terms of building the team. And then in terms of the January transfer window, as I said, I think it's slightly mixed because dressed the right wing back really well, but defensively, I think there's still real concerns the rest of the season.
Yeah, I think Chelsea are an outlier in all this because they just seem to be spending a lot of players where other clubs have been quite, you usually see a couple of clubs that just go bang, 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 and I'll get on to 1 or 2 of them in a minute further down the table. But I think the teams at the top have kind of gone, that player there, that's what we need, Sabitzer, or we need something, we get Sabitzer in, and it hasn't been kind of, even like the Newcastle who are flying, they haven't kind of gone, we sign for, sort of way and make it look like we're way more, way stronger going into the second. They've got Anthony Gordon, of course. They've just kind of picked where they are, and that's usually how January is, and then you get onto some oddball stuff that goes on. For you though, is Chelsea the most impressive? Because I'd argue Arsenal is in the window, and I know that's not something I should be saying to a Spurs fan, but where do you sit on who's really, you've kind of gone, yeah, that's really clever what they've done there?
Do you know what, a little interesting one. I thought Leeds have done really well in this window.
Yeah.
I think
Weston McKennie is a great signing.
A really smart signing. I would have had him at Spurs. I think he is a really good player, and obviously they've got kind of that American connection going on at Leeds at the moment with Jesse Marsh. I think as well, who's the other central midfielder they've got.
Tyler Adams. Yeah.
Tyler Adams, that's the name. So I think that's a good addition as well with Weston McKennie. Jorginho Ruta, I think he looks like a good striker that's come in from Hoffenheim from the Bundesliga. Obviously, 20 years old, and he looks like a good little prospect there. So I think, and speaking to one of my Leeds a guy who's a Leeds fan, very happy with their window, so they could be an interesting one to look out for. But I think you're right. Look, Chelsea are obviously the team that have had, without doubt, the best window. Maybe there is still concerns that in terms of maybe a striker and someone who's going to put the ball in the back of the net, that could be maybe where they still come up short, because you look at kind of how they have been in terms of scoring goals this season. They are the lowest scorers in the top 10, which is, again, quite an alarming stat. But I think they've obviously addressed their issue in central midfield. And I think overall they've had a very good window. But I think Liam made an interesting point. Maybe the most interesting business was Man City selling yet another star. And I know Pep Guardiola did a really interesting interview a while ago with Rio Ferdinand, speaking about how, you've got to constantly keep refreshing the team, and you can't keep winning, with the same team, because ultimately those players you lose the message on them. They get tired of the same methods. But I do feel with Man City, they've got rid of a lot of these players: Zinchenko, Raheem Sterling, Gabriel Jesus, and now Cancelo. And it doesn't really feel like they've replaced them. And again, they just continue to keep getting weaker. So it's been a really strange one from Man City, and obviously lost another star. Look, obviously he has fallen out with the manager, and that's fair enough. But is there a replacement to come in for him? And that's obviously they didn't get that. So. An interesting window from Manchester City, and I don't like them weakening themselves when they're in a title race with Arsenal. I didn't enjoy seeing that.
The thing with Man City is that they're looking around now and they're looking at what Chelsea are doing. Now Chelsea are committing, like I said, X amount of money, but it's coming across as Chelsea have spent 600 million. Newcastle are flexing their muscle. Newcastle, I think, have spent 300 odd million and not got a penny back with regards to transfers in, unless John Joe Shelby's moved to Forest involved money. But they literally have spent 300 million without getting a penny back in transfer fees. And City are going to respond. There's no doubt about it. And with the likes of Cancelo going on loan, I don't think you can see him back there. I think they're going to make a huge splash in the summer. And I think his language in the last 2 to 3 weeks for me has been very telling. He's come across and said, we don't care about the Premier League and the FA Cup. It's just we don't have this and we don't have that. And then saying that the players don't have the attitude, I think a week later, even after they've beaten Spurs, actually, that's where his comments come out. And it's all pointing towards City just going 60 million there, 60, 70, whatever it might be. And they will spend a lot of money in the summer. And a lot might, and other clubs might. I'm going to mix in. I want to move on to the games of the weekend. And I think Arsenal's business has been great. I think Jorginho makes sense, especially with the length of the deal. I think it's only an 18-month deal. And I think it makes sense that they bring him in. He's experienced. He could probably rotate in with Xhaka, like we were saying last week. I think it was us we were talking about last week. Maybe not. But it makes sense, and then you could probably say, you know what, he could probably leave Arsenal this time next year. Do you know what I mean? Because they've done something in the summer. They've signed a guy at centre back, which I think they need a bit of cover for there, and they've done Trossard, they've covered 3 areas of the pitch. I think they've been very clever. On the other hand, Everton have sold Anthony Gordon, haven't used a penny of it. Sacked the manager, took 5 or 6 days to announce the new manager, even though everyone knew who it was going to be. Announced him the day before the window opens or closes, and don't bring anybody in, and then deny rumours that they're going to sign a free transfer, as if no, we're not signing anyone, even free transfer, I'm not interested. And Sean Dyche is left with a really, really hard job. But just on this game, we're going to have a little, just give us your little views on it and give us a prediction. Everton v Arsenal. Liam, Dyche's first match in the job. I've seen stuff like, Sean Dyche means business. He has his players doing the bleep test, and I'm like, fuck's sake, you know what I mean? If this is where are we at when a bleep test is revolutionary for a manager to do? But how big a job has he got with what's going on in the window and who they're coming up against the weekend? Where do you see this going?
He's got a mountain to climb. There's no two ways about that. I mean, they can't even sign Andre Ayew on a free transfer. He's going to Nottingham Forest instead. It's penny pinching at Everton, but they can't even bring anyone in, even on loan. So you feel for Dyche. He knows what he's walked into. He's not silly. He knows what he's walked into, and he's got a squad there that obviously has been playing absolutely terribly throughout the whole season. But individually, they're actually not bad players. And I think if Dyche can sort of cultivate that changing room and get them playing for him, and get them all as one, a cohesive unit, they've got half a chance here. And that's all you need for Dyche, just half a chance. He's the best manager possibly in the world in terms of bringing a team together and getting them to fight in one direction. So I think he's got that in his locker. But you start at Arsenal, albeit at home, it's not, and we've all seen it this season when the opposition team at Goodison scores one, it's game over because the crowd turn on the players really, really quickly. Now that might change. Now Dyche is in there in the hot seat and fans are backing him and backing the team and got more positivity around the club perhaps. But I feel like if Arsenal, as they do, they blitz everyone in the first 15, 20 minutes, no matter who you are, they absolutely blitz you and they try and get 1-2 goals quickly. If they do that against Everton, I just can't see how Everton respond in any way. They've not got goals in their team. The only way that Dyche is going to keep them up is a really solid back line and nick a goal here or there. That's it, because they just don't have the goals. So I'm just going to go for an Arsenal win. I think it'll be fairly comfortable. I think 2-0 probably.
2-0. It's. I was doing a show on my own channel. It was the night of the transfer window, I think. And you've literally said, I don't know if you were watching it, Liam. I doubt you were. But you've literally said what I said that night and what I'm thinking. Because I think Sean Dyche is a free ride here, right?
Yeah.
Because if Everton, like I said this the other night, if Everton come out and play really well for 75 minutes against Arsenal and have the odd chance from a set piece and it's 0-0 and Arsenal score, the Everton fans do turn quickly. And for what they've seen in the first 75, which would be very basic, very hard working, balls down into channels, trying to get free kicks, all this sort of stuff, they'll be okay with that until it's not working. And if it doesn't work when they're 1-0 down, they'll be like, well, we need to show more than this. Yeah. Same way if you brought a fella in that wanted to play really neat attacking football and didn't score and got a goal against, we're like, well, you can't keep playing neat attacking football. You need to be solid and play the percentages. So, but the reason he has a free ride is that Everton fans hate this board and this owner right now.
Yeah.
They hate him. They hate him because there's been accusations made against Everton fans by board members through, leaking stuff out into certain places to make accusations against Everton fans that, like, from all accounts, didn't happen. And the board don't turn up at games and stuff like that. So Everton could lose 4-0 here at the weekend, and Sean Dyche won't have a word. It won't be a word about Sean Dyche. It'll be the board and the thing, and quite rightfully so. You can't be in a relegation battle as a Premier League side. Sell your, well, I don't think he's anywhere near their best player, but their main player or their most sellable asset for £40 million, and then announce your manager the day before the window opens or closes and do nothing for him. And he has a free ride, and I think the length of the deal on him is very important as well. It's a 2.5 year deal, which for me tells you if he keeps them up, they have 2 years to look at it. And if he's not doing well this time next year, they're only paying off a year of a contract or so. If he goes down, they're going to keep him, and he's going to be the man in the championship for them. So I think that was, if it had been a year deal or whatever it was, or an 18-month deal, it's a bit more than that. I think they'll struggle at the weekend. I think Arsenal are just in that position at the minute. I think this might be the weekend that Arsenal put 1.5 hands on the trophy, because of who City are playing, and we'll talk about it in a bit. 3-1 Arsenal for me. Jamie?
Yeah, do you know, look, I was saying Sean Dyche, I'm going to be slightly positive with Everton here. I don't think it's going to be pretty, and I don't think they're going to suddenly fly up the table, but I think the way that Sean Dyche kind of is as a manager and in his football, obviously very pragmatic, I think he is going to come in and get results almost immediately, and I actually think that will start at the weekend. I don't think they're going to go out in here and beat Arsenal, but I think they have the ability to frustrate them. I think 12:30 kickoff will play a factor. I know that obviously sounds silly, but sometimes those sort of an away trip, a 12:30 away trip, can be very difficult to kind of get up for. And I think Sean Dyche is going to come here immediately and make this incredibly difficult. I've been very critical across the season of Everton's squad, but actually I kind of look at it and I think this could almost suit Sean Dyche in the way he plays. I think a very solid goalkeeper in Jordan Pickford. You look at the potential back two they have of Tarkowski and Cody. I think there he can maybe get something out of them. Then you look at the fullbacks, Mikalenko and Coleman. The midfield, I think, looks very solid as well. You've got Andre Onana, who I think has been a fantastic signing for them and obviously linked with some big clubs in the window as well. Idrissa Gueye as well. I think the wingers are solid. You've got Dwight McNeil, obviously a guy who Sean Dyche knows very well. And then, of course, you've got Calvert-Lewin up front, who's going to be almost that target man. He's not going to be a prolific goal scorer, but he's going to be someone who, you give opportunities to. I think he can take them. And he is almost that typical hold-up striker. So I think this squad actually almost suits the way that Sean Dyche plays, as I said. And I do think he can get results immediately. Again, I will stress, I do not think they're going to start suddenly flying up the table and really push into for a top half, but I think they actually in the end will be okay. And as I said, I think he'll come in and get results almost immediately. I'm going to go for another really exciting 0-0 on the weekend. I think it'll play out with a goalless draw this one.
Well, you're right. The last time I think you were on Liverpool Wolves, and yeah, that's the kiss of death for that game. Fair play. Let me stick with you because we seen that game a couple of weeks ago that I've referenced with Pep's comments and stuff like that. This is the reverse fixture, and it's the reverse fixture for a lot of clubs. We get on to Palace and United in a minute where they seem to have played them and then played one more game and then they're back playing each other again. I don't know how that's worked out, but
yeah, Spurs
host City, and City are chasing Arsenal. Spurs are trying to keep up with Newcastle and United, I suppose, are their nearest kind of targets. Where do you see this going? Because I'm going to put it out there. I have a feeling for Spurs. I really have. I have a feeling for Spurs in this game. But Jamie, Spurs City, I'll let you go first and give the first prediction.
It's weird. I do have a feeling as well, but then I kind of realistically, I do think Manchester City will almost wipe the floor with Spurs here, and I do think they will end up winning this one. It's been really odd for Man City because they've really struggled at Spurs' new stadium. I think they've been there on 4 occasions. They've lost all 4 times, and that's kind of really difficult to explain why Spurs have decided to make Man City almost their bogey team, which is a really strange one. But Man City always seem to kind of struggle against us. They've obviously had the odd win here and there, but I think across the last 7 or 8 meetings, they've only won 2 or 3 times. So, yes, it's been kind of weird for Man City when they played Spurs. But something that really a stat that really stands out for me is that 4 of Spurs' last 5 games at home, they've lost. So kind of that home form at the moment, that recent home form, there's really no reason to be confident from a Spurs perspective. As I said, Porro will come in and probably add something in terms of a bit of more creativity, but I said Spurs still well short defensively. I mentioned that stat of most goals conceded in the Premier League since October, really, really poor. And, you consider the players that Man City have, the likes of Haaland, Kevin De Bruyne, I don't need to, those unbelievable players. I think they'll take full advantage of Spurs here. And I actually said 3-2 last time, and I was obviously 1-off with that. And I really fancy a lot of goals here again. I think Spurs offensively can get a Man City. I think City are a team who really have dropped off at the back recently, and I think Spurs can take advantage of that. But unfortunately, I think Spurs' defence and Man City's attack will probably allow them to win 3-2, and that's my score prediction.
Well, okay, you've gone high on that one as opposed to low on the other. Liam, quick prediction: Spurs, Man City.
Well, I think this is a game where, for whatever reason, no matter the form, chaos just ensues between them. It's just one of those that goals fly in at either end all the time. I think City are there to be had, if I'm honest. I don't know if that's going to be Spurs and if they can get themselves up for it and have the quality to do it, but they'll definitely score. As you say, Jamie, Spurs' defence is pretty abhorrent at the moment. There's no sort of cohesion whatsoever. It's all 6s and 7s. I'm going to go for a draw, actually. I'm going to go for 2-2.
Okay. 2-2.
But chaos. Lots of chaos.
Yeah, it just seems the perfect... Like, when Liverpool play Man City, it's like... And for the last 3-4 seasons, it's been the 2 best teams going at it like a million miles an hour. The quality is really, really high. And it usually ends up a 1-1 or a 2-1, or there's been outliers to that. But when it's Spurs City, it's like City usually turn up feeling chest out, we're great, and Spurs turn up and go, can we beat these? And then City just give them like chances to hurt them, and Spurs take them with Kulusevski, Kane, Son, whoever it might be, and it's the perfect formula of one team going into something going, we'll win this, and another team going, not sure, but if we get a chance, and then they just keep getting chances, and then like the last time was the exact same, like it was like City just handing Spurs chances to score goals, and Spurs going, great, we're not even working here, and then City just click up a gear or two, and Spurs can't handle it because of the Spurs defensive issues.
It was bizarre, but the way you said that, because it felt exactly like that in the reverse fixture. I went into it kind of absolutely zero hope, and I'm like, I don't really care. It's almost
we spoke about it before the game. Yeah.
Then I'm like, well, that's 1-0. Okay, I'm here now. I'm awake. I know what's happening. Then it goes 2-0, and I'm like, okay, right, we're back. We're going to get in the top 4 here. And then, then obviously it all just sudden crumbles. But yeah, it's just been so weird with Man City and Spurs. And a prime example of that was almost last season, really, where Kane produced that unbelievable performance at the Etihad, where he almost ran the game. He got a brace. They just gave him so much space to just kind of almost dictate play. And it was one of the best individual performances I've seen from a Spurs player in my lifetime, really, at the Etihad against the champions. They just gave him so much space. I watched kind of a replay of it even last night, actually, of his performance. And they just gave him so much room. And it's been such a weird fixture, this one. Man City always kind of seem to play into Spurs' hands. And it's a strange one. But I'm interested to see what we can do on the weekend. I do have a feeling deep down. But I think ultimately, as I said, I think Man City should be too good here.
This game doesn't happen till Sunday. And Arsenal, I think, play early on Saturday, if I'm right. Like you said, early Saturday. And I think if Arsenal win this is where I think Spurs win. And that's my whole thing behind it. I think, honestly, I've said it for weeks, City are one bad result away from Arsenal just going off into the sunset here. And I think this might be the week. I think City going into it 8 points behind, same amount of games played, I think. Having to go away to Spurs. If Arsenal win, of course, they'll be 8 points behind with the same amount of games played, I think. And I think it's one where City just take their eye off the ball or just are that bit edgy. And I think Spurs win the 2-1. I think the form at the Spurs Stadium is a big factor. And it's a bit like Man City at Liverpool. Like Man City's only win at Liverpool in the last, I want to say 20 years, has been at an empty ground. When Liverpool had like no defence, no like defenders left. The sort of way they were under 19 different centre-back partnership that season. It was Henderson and Fabinho, I think. And that's their only win, I think, at Anfield in 20-odd years. And I think that is in their heads. And I think the Spurs team might be as well. So I'm going 2-1 Spurs there just to see. And I want Arsenal to win the league over them. So that's another reason I'm going to be very honest with you. And I know that hurts you, Jamie, but listen, for the moral of football, I want for Arsenal to win it. United Palace. United are on a great run. I think I've seen something the other day. 23 games, 1 defeat in 23 or something like that. I think it might be in, or 1 defeat in 25. Might be a lot of wins in that, a couple of draws. They're on good form. They dropped points at Palace a couple of weeks ago late on.
Lost
to a free kick. Yeah, and went and then got beaten by Arsenal. It was a tough week, but this should be 3 points, Liam. Like,
you'd think so. You would think so. I think Ten Hag's made it very clear he wants to make an Old Trafford into a fortress again, which we've just not had over the last sort of 5, 6, 7 years, to be honest with you. It seems like teams have so much confidence going up to Old Trafford that they think they can, get a draw or 3 points. But he's starting to turn the tide, turn the narrative that United are having that stadium now back as theirs and really controlling games and dictating the tempo of the game. And I know it's Reading and I know it's Nottingham Forest, but I thought United did that very, very well in those 2 games recently. They just completely control everything. And they leak a few chances, leak a few goals. That's normal in sort of your first season in charge with a new culture, with a new manager. But overall, I've not seen a United team playing as a team for the best part of a decade, really. It's mad to say that, but it's true. These players are playing for each other and they're playing for a manager that they clearly believe in. And that's testament to Ten Hag and what he's done. I think, obviously, Rashford, we say it every week, but what form he's in at the moment. Sancho came back last night, got his 30 minutes, so he's in and around the squad. There's plenty of options now that United have got, and Sabitzer probably gets 30 minutes at the weekend as well. So yeah, reverse fixture, drew 1-1, late goal, and that sort of killed the momentum going into Arsenal. But at Old Trafford, you'd think you have to get 3 points. If you're chasing top four,
Yeah.
I think you need the 3 points. It's very tight between Newcastle, Spurs there, City around it as well. So just need a clean game and to get through it. And I mean, United have got 8 fixtures between now and the end of February. So you just need to get through games and not make it difficult for themselves.
Yeah.
What's your prediction? United Palace.
Oh, I'll go 2-1. I think we will concede, but should have enough quality to get over.
It's interesting to see Sancho come back.
Yeah.
There was a lot made, and of him not being in the squad. Was it post World Cup? And it was a bit harsh on him. I thought, clearly the guy, he might be having issues with his form and stuff like that, and that's okay. You'll get fans of all sorts of clubs saying, "Oh, look at him, he's a waste of money," but there was clearly some mental stuff for me there, I think.
Yeah.
And I think when you see stuff like that, when you see a manager say he's not mentally or physically in the place he needs to be, that's where people have to kind of take a step back, regardless of who you support or how many brownie points you think you can earn on social media. He's a very young guy with a big price on him. He's gone from England, he's gone to Germany, he's had a great time there, he's come over, he's had tough enough time, bar a couple of moments at United, and it's good to see him back. I'm a Liverpool fan, but I'm not a fan of Sancho because he plays for United, but it's good to see on a personal level someone come back to play football, the sort of way. I think United win this easy. I think it's interesting though, I had 3-0 and then you said they cough up some chances, and when they cough up some chances, Palace are alright at taking chances when you look at who they have going forward, and they've some really good talent at Palace in the forward areas. I'm going to go 3-1 on it, I think United have enough. I think you're right in what you're saying. They're controlling games without being on top in games all the time.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is teams have gone to Old Trafford. You're right. They've gone to Old Trafford over the last, especially for me, 2 or 3 years, where United could have a lot of the ball but were never in control of the game. Or could have little of the ball and never be in control of the game. Where you see United, it's just organisation. That's all it is, really. Because there's not a huge turnover in players. It's organisation.
Yeah.
When we don't have the ball, we do this. When we do have the ball, we do this. And United weren't even doing that basics for a long time, especially at home, and weren't using Old Trafford as what it is. So, but I'm going to go 3-1 because I think Palace will nick one. Jamie, where does this go?
Yeah, I think 2 interesting factors with this one. I think it's worth also considering. Palace seem to have turned the corner somewhat. I don't think it's going to be enough to kind of get a result here, but look, they obviously were very fortunate to lose against Chelsea. We then saw them pick up draws against Newcastle and Manchester United, which was both very impressive. So maybe I think they can kind of somewhat scare Manchester United, but as I said, I don't think it'll be quite enough. Also worth considering that Manchester United have this run of games, this almost brutal run of games where, for the next couple of months, they're going to be playing so many games. So I think it'd be a case of just trying to get the job done. And then, of course, even this week, they were in action in midweek as well. So that was obviously another factor where I think it will be that they will just about get the job done. Now, I don't think it's going to be an emphatic win, but look, it's Man United at home. Liam said, almost Old Trafford's become that fortress, and I think it'll be a game where they control it. And I'm going to go for 2-0 to Manchester United.
2-0, that's fair. We've done a few games there. We've done the transfer window there, and we've done well. We are pre-recording this show, but we're looking to bring it back live next week. And maybe next week when we do bring it live, we'll push it across all our social media and stuff like that. And we get a lot of people in. We might do a Q&A, so we might touch on some games next week. But where we're doing that, we might get questions for Jamie, we might get questions for Liam. I don't want any questions on Liverpool, if that's okay. I'm pleading the fifth until the season's over. But no, I'm only joking. I'll talk Liverpool all day. It doesn't bother me. But look, we might do that next week. So hit the like button, subscribe, leave a comment if you have any feedback for us. And like I said, we'll be back next week. We'll announce it in advance, and you can come on and ask the lads any questions you want, and me, of course, as well. That has been the Premier League preview show with Bookmakers TV. Thanks to Liam, thanks to Jamie. Enjoy our football this weekend, lads. Best of luck. I say that through gritted teeth, but best of luck. And we'll talk to you next week. Cheers.